The key thing is, and also in terms of fundraising, right? That's not the goal. It only leads you to a place where you need to be growing up, scaling up, to achieve something which you actually started out for with passion. So it's only an enabler to achieve the end goal. End of the day, you might even not need the money, but you'll still be able to achieve what you wanted. And it is also what is that you want in your head. That's where everything comes from. So it's not the money. So I think everything will be driven by passion, and money will come along the way if you're able to actually execute. How many of you know what are the stages on a startup's fundraising journey? Do any of you know? Okay. So when a startup, you start your company today, for you to grow rapidly or to even become where Flipkart is today, they start off small, right? And when you're starting up, the first person you actually end up going to are your family and friends. So that's where the seed money comes from, right? Everybody goes to their parents, to their best friends and says, hey, can you lend that initial 5-10 lakhs so that you can help me actually start up. So that's the first circle which starts off. So it's a friends and family and fools is what they say. Somebody else who trusts you and be able to blindly actually give you money because you don't have anything on the table right now. So that's a friends, family and fools round. That's the first round. The next comes the angel money, right? The angel money is something which will come in when you actually have a product in place and are then able to raise the money to scale or to show initial traction so that you can go on to the next levels. In the angel rounds, normally your fundraising amounts start anywhere between 100K, which is around 50-60 lakhs, to $1 million, $1.5 million. But average deal size you will end up seeing is around 2 to 3 crores. The next round is where the Series A comes in. Series A is what? That's the first venture capital round which you'll normally end up doing. So in the first seed round, it's your friends and family, individual people. Angels again are individual people who invest money into your company. Series A is where funds come in, right? What are funds? Funds are guys who have raised money from somebody else and want to deploy it across multiple companies and build their portfolio. So this is the stage where all the funds start coming into play. Series A is the first round. It can start as low as 3 crores if they want to take the early bet and say, I'm going to do the first 3 crore round. But on an average, you will look at a couple of $1 million for a Series A. So in India, you see a $2 to $5 million fundraise in a Series A. And then comes a Series B, C, D, E. B and C are also normally done by venture capitalists. To just give examples of who the venture capitalists in India are, Axel, IDG, Kalari Capital, all these folks are venture capitalists. Series C onwards, the fundraise amount becomes really high. So either a fund who has, say, a $500 million fund, or private equity guys come into play, right? So those are people who invest much larger quantums. The quantum could be anywhere between 50 million to a $250 million round. Or it could also end up being a $1 billion round by hedge funds, right? So this is how the whole spectrum looks like for a startup funding, right? It's not necessary that everybody goes through the same rounds. People can jump directly to a Series A. I have built a product with my own money and I'm a very differentiated product. I can go directly to a Series A. I don't need the angel money because the Series A person is ready to take that bet on me. That's what happens most of the times. Just as a thing, in terms of a bridge round, what is today happening in the market, Series A is not an easy thing to come by. Everybody is holding off and holding on to their cards very tight. So the guys who have raised an angel round need a little more runway to survive. So they raise an in-between round called a bridge round, either to survive or to say that I need a few more numbers to actually get to the Series A guy. So I will raise a small bridge round of a couple of crores and then hit the Series A market. So that's where a bridge round comes into play. So it's between the angel and the Series A. Does anybody have any questions on this segment? Bridge rounds are also normally by angels. or it could also be small angel funds. Today in the market, there are a lot of funds which have been created, somebody like a micro VC. So when I say Series A guys have a corpus of anywhere between 50 to $100 million to be actually doing the investments. Micro VC could have anywhere between 10 to $30 million, which means they do smaller check sizes of 3 crores, 4 crores and build their portfolio. Those are the ones who are there. Like India Quotient, which is there in Bombay, right? So all those are K Capital. They'll also provide the bridge rounds. Any other questions? Okay. So who are these? So just to go back. What I'm covering today is the initial angel round segment because that's where Let's Venture is key focus. Also in an early stage for a startup, that is the key round which you'll need to look at, right? So we'll focus on the angel funding, but a lot of these concepts actually remain through and through in terms of a startup's life. It doesn't matter what stage you're in, there are certain things which will remain across the spectrum. So it will hold on for much later stages, but we will concentrate on the angel spectrum today. So who are angels? And the word is actually very aptly given because they are guys who will not know you but are coming in as angels and giving you money so that you can develop your product, right? So if you actually just look at this grid, you have one way of looking at it. One is where the money is and where there is domain knowledge, right? When you're raising funds, do you want to take only money? Do you want something more than money? That's what this thing basically says, right? You want to raise a couple of crores. There is a person from real estate who's ready to give you money. He says, 2 crores, you can take it. Do you just want that? Or do you want something more, right? Assume you're a hardware startup, which is a lot of people in Kerala right now. Do you want somebody who can give you that extra in terms of maybe domain knowledge? Somebody who's been there in the hardware industry can give you apt inputs in terms of how to develop the product? Do you want somebody who is from the industry because he can give you connects as customers, right? Or do you want somebody who's maybe built a business? It doesn't have to be hardware specific. He could be anybody, but he's built a business so he can give you value-added tips in terms of building your own business. So that becomes really key. What would we suggest? End of day, money can come in from anywhere, but it's extremely important for you as an early stage startup to have at least 2 or 3 people who understand the space or who can provide some kind of value add. If you're raising a couple of crores, everybody is not going to put in a 50 lakh check. So there will always be guys who minimum check size you will see is a 5 or a 10 lakhs, right, from angel investors. So you will have 10 or 15 investors. You don't need all the 15 to be actually value-added guys, but you need the 2 or 3 who can actually be key people for you, right? So it's extremely important for you to research, find out, and then say, okay, this is the person I actually want, right? So that becomes important. So the quadrant to the right is where the most important people are. So that is the first segment which you need to look at. There are other folks who could be value-add but have no money, right? Or who will put in 50K, 1 lakh just because they do feel that there needs to be a skin in the game. These people are also important, mainly because of the kind of connects they can bring you. So it is good to have an advisory board who maybe fill 1 or 2 people who will be able to help on multiple channels. When you look at a startup, maybe 1 or 2 founders, you could have complementary skills, right? One could be a tech founder, the other person is a business guy. But there are always places where you don't have knowledge. So you need to look at advisors who can fill that gap. It shouldn't be the same things which you guys know, then it's not going to be any value add. So if I know sales, but I don't have customer connects, I don't know the industry as much. I'm building a fintech product, but I don't have any banking connects. Figure out an advisor who has banking connects, who maybe was a senior guy in some bank, so he will know the rest of the people in the market. So you can get that person as an advisor, and then that will help you in terms of growing, right? So there needs to be somebody who can plug in the holes which are not there, which is there in the company right now. And normally what also happens is an advisor will sit with you for a couple of hours every week, maybe. What is in it for him, right? So that's also something which the startup needs to think of. So there is this concept of the advisory equity, which you can carve out from your equity pool and say, I will give you 1% or 2% because you're spending so much time with me and you're providing me the complementary skills which I don't have. So that becomes important. And the leftmost corner, as I mentioned, just money. If that's the only thing which you're getting, it doesn't make sense, right? Because there's going to be no value add. Initially, when you're struggling, you know it doesn't matter where the money comes from, I'm just going to take the money. But very important for you to think, what is it going to do for me going forward? If I just get this money, will I still be able to, if I survive, will I be able to scale, right? So, like I said, if there are 10 investors, it's okay to get 5 investors like that because you already have 5 guys who can add value in different ways. So always have that mix of investors to be actually raising funds from. Any questions here? Yeah.
Hello. Preferably, how many investors a venture capitalist is looking for? I mean to say, I have a startup. I have 1 investor or 2 investors or 10 number of investors who are angels. When I go to a Series A round, will that be considered by a VC? There are too many number of angel investors are there. Will it be a problem?
No. I have startups with 80 investors on their cap table, right? By limit, you can go up to 200, but investors are okay. The thing is also, who are these investors, right? So assume in this list you have a Rajan Anandan or an Anupam Mittal. The value add from that person is extremely high. A VC would want to see those guys on table because they know there is something else which is coming on. But it doesn't matter per se. Irrespective of who is there on the table, people don't mind other people on the table. What will happen is, when I invest as a Series A investor, I might not want all those people. I might give an exit, right? I would want to clear up the cap table if there are too many people, and I will give them an exit and remain the sole person on the table. That's a possibility. Yeah. Anything else?
What is the percentage of equity that these early stage investors will be looking at? The percentage?
Percentage of equity. So, if you look here, every stage you end up giving up different equity, and it also depends on how much money you're raising, right? So, are you raising 50 lakhs, are you raising 3 crores, are you raising 6 crores? What is the quantum you're raising is one key question. In an angel round, you could anywhere be giving up between 10 and 25% based on the amount you're raising, based on the stage you are in, right? If you're just a beta launch, or do you have early revenues, do you have steady revenues, all those things come into play for me to actually make that call in terms of valuation. We'll go into it a little later, but normal range is around 10 to 25%. If you go in for a Series A, B, standard is around 20 to 30% is something which I want. So you would want to go at a stage where you're comfortable giving up that quantum because you're also raising a larger amount, right? You could be raising $3 to $6 million. In that way, you will see if I'm giving up 20, 25%, is it comfortable, right? So that is something which you can look at. So how would you, so as I was just telling, how would you choose the angel investors, right? So there are 100 people in the market. Who do I go after? You also need to do your diligence the same way as an angel does on you, to be choosing who is it that you want on your cap table, right? Because the moment you get somebody's money, he's there in your life and he will ask you questions. He could also trouble you, so it's very important for you to figure out who is it that you actually want on the cap table. So these are some of the key things which we normally say that you need to look for, right? So the first thing is, as I mentioned, look for guys who are experts in the field, who could help you in particular ways. Or guys who have built businesses. They can help you in very different ways, right? It could be market connects, it could be helping you think through in terms of certain things, how do you grow your business, right? or you have a very complicated product, or you have a mobile product, you would want a mobile product guy to be actually there on the cap table, because he'll help you with some nitty-gritties which you couldn't even have thought of. End of day, whatever kind of investor you're getting on board, does he believe in your vision, right? Because it's a long-term game. No investor is going to be there for a year and get out. It's at least 7 to 8 years. So it's a long-term relationship which you're going to have with that person. Long distance, long-term relationship. So it's very important for both of you to be on the same page. So does he believe in what you're building? Or upfront, is there something else which he has on his mind? If even before he commits, he actually has a different vision for you, please don't take the money. Because tomorrow after investing, he will sit on your head to figure out if he can help you change course in your business, which you might not be okay with. So extremely important that both of you are aligned on what is it that you want for the company. Does he think your company should be actually going the same way? Only then actually take money from these people. So it's very important for you to figure out like-minded investors. The other thing which you asked, is it better to have fewer or too many? Obviously fewer is better. But what we are seeing in the market is, a minimum check size of 10 lakhs per person, right? There could be guys who come with 50, 60 lakhs, but that's like an outlier in most deals. So you will end up having 10 to 20 investors on your cap table when you're raising funds. So when you start off your fundraising journey, assume today you decided you want to raise 1.5 crore, right? How would you go about it? And how will the market perceive you, right? So when you're going out to the market to raise funds, the first thing is to look out for the domain experts and guys who can value you. What happens is, if those are the first guys who come in, you can actually use his name to go out to the market and raise funds from other people. That's the whole concept of a lead investor, right? Lead investor is a guy who will lead you around by saying, I have done my diligence on this company, I understand the space, so I have put the bet on these guys. The other guys will put a bet on this person because either he understands the business or he's well known in the market for whatever reasons, right? But there needs to be that confidence that this guy has understood your business in and out. Can I ask you the question? Yes.
Outside.
Could be anywhere. And this is a generic thing, right? I'm not even going specific to Let's Venture. This is how an angel round is actually done. General market, right? So it's not that you will go finding a lead investor, you will go finding a domain expert who you will then say, can you become my lead investor because your name is going to add value, right? So that's the only concept. So it's just a terminology which all of us have created to just make the whole thing easier. But can you get the initial couple of guys who will be able to do diligence on you, as in terms of a business diligence, right? So the rest of the guys will follow this person. So in the angel hierarchy, there are people who know how to evaluate businesses, and can actually set terms, right? Because you need to know what is the valuation you're going to get, who will actually sign on your term sheet. All those things will actually come into play. So you would want one guy who can actually do all this for you. Then there are few other guys who will also evaluate you, but not do other things because they're very busy, right? There are some people in the industry who say, I can evaluate you, I will put in the money, but don't ask me to sit on your board, don't ask me to be sitting and doing your terms because I don't have the bandwidth for it, right? And then you have another set of guys who normally look at who are the first 5 guys who have invested. I will just bet on them because I can't evaluate it because I don't have the expertise in the field. But I want to invest because I think this company can do really great, right? I think it's a new space, it's fantastic. I want to invest in this company, so I will invest. So there are different phases in the angel hierarchy itself, right? So the initial guys you want are guys who can evaluate, who potentially could sit on your board, right? So that's where the lead investor comes. What would the lead investor do? He will evaluate you. He will say, okay, this is how I can value your company, right? For 3 crores, if you're raising, I'll give you 20% or 25% equity will be your dilution. And then I'll sit on your board so that I can help you with strategic decision making going forward. I will also be the representative for the rest of the investors, right? Because I have taken the first bet. So that's the initial set of people you need to reach out to in the market. There are well-known people in the market like Sharad, Anupam, Mohandas Pai, all these people who are there in the market. But it's not necessary that it's these people only. Like I said, can the guy understand your space? That's what I will bet on, right? Could be anybody, but he knows your space, could be a lead investor. End of day, like I said, it's a long-term relationship. When it's a long-term relationship, you need to know, is there going to be compatibility, right? So do a check about all these investors with other people. They have invested somewhere else. Check with those companies, how is it that they found this investor? Does he create a lot of noise? Is he okay? Does he not bother about you? Does he support you in multiple things? What does he actually help you with, right? Very important for you to do reference checks so that you are comfortable with who you're getting on your cap table. So, and founders are always open about how their investors are. So absolutely no this thing at all. So just reach out. LinkedIn is the best way. If you've seen some investors invested in some other company, reach out to the founder, check on them. Any questions on how you would actually look out for an angel investor? Perfect. There are a couple of blog posts also. We'll send this deck across later, so you can also read through certain things of how you will actually look for an angel investor. At this stage, I will also tell you, you asked about Let's Venture. So there are multiple ways in which you can actually go about in terms of your fundraise, right? A lot of people come to Let's Venture, go to angel networks like Indian Angel Network, Mumbai Angel Network, Hyderabad, Calcutta, Conglo here, right? Because there is a structured way of doing things, or you have access to people directly. But you might also be somebody who knows a lot of people in the market, so you don't need to be going to these platforms. Maybe you can do it on your own, right? You know 20 investors, you can go talk to them and get them on the cap table. So there is no defined way, but what happens if you come onto the platform or go to these networks is there is a structured way, and you get access to more people than you know, right? So there could be people sitting somewhere else in some other part of the country or some other part of the world who could be value add to you. So you would want to see and explore other options before you just go out into the market. Key question, right? So what is it that angels would look for? Have any of you gone out to the market to actually raise funds? Okay, tell me this. If you're approaching today, there are pitches also which are happening in the evening, and you've met a few investors. What is it you think that they are actually looking at in your company? Anybody? Can I get you? Money and value. They are looking at money and value from you. That is at 4 years down the line. Why will I invest in you today?
Numbers and team.
Huh?
Numbers and team.
Okay. What else? Idea. Okay. Yeah? Perfect. What else? Okay. Marketing. Okay. Anything else?
Business plan. Business plan.
Okay. Huh? Build a name. Okay. You build a brand so far. Okay. Almost all of these things, right? I'll need to look at everything for me to actually take a call if I'm going to invest in you or not. It's not one thing. First and foremost is the team, as you guys rightly mentioned, right? Because in an early stage, I am betting on the guy. Because you would not be having 100 crore of business. You might have built a brand, but it's very difficult to build a brand with no money. So I'm actually giving you money to be building the brand, right? So brand building will come a little later, but are you on the pathway is something I would look at. End of day, team is key. Even in later stages, team becomes key, but at least till series B, team is what I actually bet on. Can these guys execute? There could be 10 guys doing the similar thing, but I'll bet on one guy because I think this guy has it in him. Does he have the passion? Does he understand the space? Or do I know more than him, right? If I know more than him, it's a no-go on the first day itself. So does he know the space? Does he know what he's getting into? Does he know who the other people in the market are, right? In similar ecosystem, outside ecosystem, how have they built the business? And what is it that the founder is actually thinking in terms of vision for the company, right? Does he have a grand scale, or is he saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to be a 10 crore company, I'm going to be very happy with it? What is it that the founder is thinking becomes extremely important when I'm investing as an investor. So end of day, the team becomes the key, right? You could be right out of college, but have the drive to be doing things. And you're doing something new age. So I will actually prefer to be putting something as money into a new age, into a youngster, because he's doing something completely new age and he can understand better than somebody who's maybe 35, right? So that becomes really important. What are the kind of product you're actually building at what age? If you're building a B2B SaaS company at 22, I mostly won't take a bet on you because you don't know how sales cycle work, right? You don't know how the business on corporates work. So when it's a B2B company and it's SaaS model, I would ideally want to see somebody who has a bit of experience in the space, right? If it's a new consumer tech company, youngsters are somebody I don't mind looking at. But end of day, does he have passion? Does he have the drive to be doing it? In B2B, like I said, does he have the relevant experience to be doing it? Sometimes colleges do matter, but we're increasingly seeing that colleges don't make a difference, right? It used to be this fad of IIT, hey, you're an IT tag, I will fund you, but I think a lot of IT companies have gone down under. So people are okay not looking at the tag, they're looking more in terms of what is it that you're building, right? So the team becomes most important. What also happens is, in terms of the team, is it one founder? Is it two founders? Is it three? Is it 4, 5, 6? When you're coming out of college, you're all hostel friends, you want 6 people to be together and you start working on it. But it's too many people, right? Who's going to take the decision? Who's the one person who's going to be taking the decision, right? You can't have 6 people taking a decision. And are there 6 verticals to start off with that, all of them have equal responsibilities? So 6 is too many. 1 is too less. 1 is too less, why? Because, like I said, even just in fundraising, if you look at it, you need the business to go on, but you also want to be dedicating time for fundraising, right? So you would ideally want to have 2 people at least, with complementary skills. 1 is also a risk because tomorrow, if God forbid something happens, who's going to run the company? So you do need to have 1 more person. Could be a co-founder or at least a senior person who will be able to manage people who also hired. So who are these other guys, right? I would also want to know who else is there in your team, and are they as passionate? I might not do a diligence on them, but it'll be great to have a chat with them to see what is it that they are thinking of, right? One other thing which is normally something which we have seen in the market with the founding team is a husband-wife duo, right? A lot of people are comfortable working as co-founders there, but investors are mostly not comfortable because tomorrow if there is a tiff, it will go on to the business and you're not okay with it, right? Business should not get impacted with personal life, but eventually it ends up happening the same way. So 90% of the investors don't want to be investing in a husband-wife duo. There are people who take bets, but avoid upfront, right? So that's something which we normally investors do think of. And like one of you mentioned, what are the next things which I'll look at, right? I'll just go to scalability first. So one, I'm looking at the team, right? And then I look, how big is the market? Can you actually grow really big and scale your business? Or is the market itself a $10 million market, right? If your market is a $500 million market, you will be able to capture some portion of it, and maybe 5 years or 8 years down the line, you will have $30 million. But if your market itself is $30 million, you will maybe do $3 million. Is it worth investing in it, right? Every business is not a fundable business. And I think it's very important for all of us to understand that it's not necessary to raise funds. It's okay to not raise funds and be a lifestyle business. I have known founders who built 100 crore businesses but don't have a single investor on their cap table, and they're very happy with it, right? I'm running the business the way I want. I have nobody else who questions me on what I'm doing, and I'm building a profitable business. And it's a lifestyle business. I'm okay with it. I don't need a hockey stick growth. I'm okay with a linear growth, right? So that is something which you need to be comfortable upfront in terms of understanding, do I need to raise money, or I'm okay with actually not raising and making it a lifestyle business. But the moment you go to an investor, the first question is that, how big is the market? Unless it's a big market, I won't even touch you. Even if it's a fantastic team, I will not touch you because you don't know how big your market is, right? So you need to do your research of knowing how big the market is. Can you scale? How much can you scale, right? If you're the initial person, you know that you have the first mover advantage and you'll be able to capture a larger portion of the market, initially at least, right? And afterwards you will need to continue to keep creating differentiations. But is it a scalable model at all or not? Or maybe you're doing something which is a brick and mortar, it's a cash intensive business. So scalability again comes into question, right? So all portions of scalability are actually measured to see if it's something where I can invest in. You've built a business, but do you know who else is there in the market? And this is one thing, I'll be frank, I really would want people here to look out and see who else is there in the market. Very important, before you build the business. Market research is key. Any kind of company, right? Do you know if there are 5 other guys doing the same kind of thing? Or is there nobody in the market who's doing this kind of a thing, right? That's where you know you're creating a differentiation. It's okay to build something which somebody else is doing, but will you get money after that, right? Will you be able to scale because somebody else is already eating into the pie? So before you start a business, please do your market research to understand who else is there in the market, who is the competition, what are the kind of things they are doing, what is their business model, right? Who is their target market? Are you capturing the same things and going after the market? Then you might want to really think through this, right? Before you build. You build and then think it won't work because already you wasted 6 months of your life into this and then thinking that there are 5 other guys who are already doing the same thing. Might not work. So important for you to do the market research and see who else is there. And there are 3 other guys who are doing the same thing, but can I build a differentiation, right? I'm maybe capturing a different kind of a market, or maybe I'm running my business differently. My business model is different. I'm maybe providing a few features which this guy doesn't have, or maybe making it way more easier, right? End of day, when people say, hey, the same kind of company might not get funded, Google was, I think, the 11th search engine, right? It was not the first company which came into play. But they created something which other guys could not beat, right? The product was fantastic. Execution was impeccable. So it provided ease and they knew how to go about it. So it's not necessary that you're the first mover, but how else are you building differentiation becomes important. So that is something which you really need to keep in mind when you're raising funds, and that's one of the key things that an angel investor looks at, right? He will want to see how different you are. He will do his own research. You could say I have no competitors at all, but he's in the market and he knows everything which is happening. He will have 5 other companies which are similar. So please do your homework also in terms of this before you go to an investor. And then comes attraction, right? Every company works differently. Your space is different. So there is no benchmark in terms of saying you need to have X number of customers or you need to have X revenue before you actually hit the market for fundraising. B2C company, I would want to see initial traction. Assume it's a mobile app company. How many downloads do you have, right? And were you able to grow organically? That thing comes into play. Do you have 50,000 downloads, 100,000 downloads? How many downloads do you have? If you have 5,000 downloads, I'm still not too comfortable, but if maybe you're raising 50 lakhs, it is something I'm okay with because I've seen initial traction, right? But if you're raising 1.5 crore, I would want to see at least 30, 40,000 downloads for me to be comfortable with it, because I know you're able to scale it. Because the moment it goes beyond a threshold, it is important for me to see how is it that you're scaling, or are you pouring money into customer acquisition, right? What is the methodology used? So those things come into play in terms of traction. So I will want to see what user base you have, what retention you have. In a B2B, it's great to have a paying customer already on board. But if you're raising, say, the initial 1 crore, 1.5 crores, you at least need to have pilots going on, right? Which means somebody is ready to take that bet and try out your product in the B2B space. So it is important to have customers already there or as beta customers for you to be actually going to the market and raising funds. So traction does become really important. And in the last 1.5 years, things have moved a lot in the market. 2015 was fantastic. You don't have customers, you don't have unit economics working for you. It doesn't matter. I will pump in money because I think it's a hot space. Today, the market has changed. Every single investor is looking at numbers. He's looking at what your month-on-month growth is. He's looking at how the market is faring. He's looking at customer acquisition costs. He's looking at retention numbers. He's looking at everything numbers, right? So today the market has changed. So you need to go with numbers for you to be able to attract attention. So that is important today. It's always a cyclical nature because when the wave is high, people want to ride it, right, and just go on, because 2015 had fantastic valuation. Series B, C was happening. Last 2 years, everything just went down, right? And it's okay. I think it will come up again, but it's a correction which was required. People put in money into things where business sense was not even there. But today they are looking at unit economics, which is the most important thing. Forget about an investor. I think it is important for the founders to even think of it, right? Even if you're not going to an investor, bottom line is, do your unit economics make sense, right? By when will you be positive on unit economics basis? When will you break even? That becomes paramount. I think most of these things, it's not about what an angel investor looks for. It's more about what you actually need to think about when you're building your business. That becomes very key. Do you have any questions on what somebody will look for? Yeah.
Ma'am, this break-even, it's actually a question of how much do you scale, right? Because you can also pump in money, whatever you bring in as cash flow, and then again use that for scaling up. So it's also called in terms of, where you want to reach. So
exactly. So today you're raising money, you will say with the 3 crores, by when potentially I can, right? But if you don't raise money, you will still be with the same user base and maybe you will be able to do it. But I want to see what is it you're thinking. Do you even want to look at unit economics at all or not, right?
But then my business case will keep changing, right?
Which is okay. End of day, business case will keep changing every other month, right? But what is your thought process? Have you even looked at unit economics is the question, right? Today, if you look at some of the largest companies, attained unit economics much later in their life. It was not in the first year. But I will want to know, have you thought through it? And assume I don't give you money today, right? You're not able to raise money. What is it that you're going to look at? You will want to see if you can reduce your customer acquisition cost and increase the revenue coming out of a customer, correct? And at that point in time, you will see, can I break even at some point? That's the thought process I'm looking at. How is it that you would want to look at it? How will you want to, and at the end of the day, scale will actually screw up your numbers, right? If you want to scale really high, large, you will pour in money into marketing and it might not make sense in the initial year or so, right? Which is understandable. But on a general basis, I will want to see what is your vision in terms of when you want to achieve. At some point in time, you should be in a stage where even when I'm scaling, I'm able to achieve the unit economics, right? It could be 2 years down the line, but can you achieve it?
When we are looking to the investors part, what they are looking to, whether they are looking to B2B or B2C, which is, they are more preference to invest in.
Everybody has their own thesis. I don't think there is a B2B or a B2C. There are investors who want to invest.
No, I mean whether the scope for B2C than B2B?
No, not necessary.
No.
Not necessary. It is spread across. There are investors who invest in B2C. There are investors who invest in B2B. B2C was a much larger play in the last couple of years. I understand your question there. But again, like I said, from 2015 onwards, end of 2015 onwards, market has also changed. B2B companies are actually gaining more traction in terms of investments, right? Because from day one, you have revenues, which a B2C company can't do, right?
But madam, when I spoke to some investors, they are preferred that B2C is more attractive than the B2B. Why? Because we are directly reaching the customers. So otherwise, B2B is through other businesses.
Not necessary. It depends. Like I said, every investor has his own thesis, right? If you go to specific investors in the market, say you go to Girish Mathrubootham, who's Freshdesk CEO, he understands B2B in and out, right? He prefers to invest in a B2B company because he knows the space and he knows what the scale can be, right? That's all there is. So every investor has his own thesis. You also need to identify who is it that it will match, right? That's where your investor diligence comes into play. To see this guy has maybe built business in the B2B, he'll understand B2B more, right? If you go to Flipkart and talk to Binny will ideally prefer a B2C company because he understands consumer space. So you choose investors accordingly and go to those set of people. That's the thing. Yeah.
What is the type of market that an investor look for? Like, is the investor look for a global market or a specific market like Indian market?
Again, Indian market is very big, right? So what is it in the Indian market that you are looking at will become important, right? Is it going to touch multiple crore people or is it going to be 10,000 people? End of day, market need not be only local or global. It is anywhere because you can also replicate it across, right? But I want to see how big the numbers will be. Addressable market in terms of number needs to be high. It could be global or local. But there is, in terms of B2B, most of the times people prefer a global market because paying propensity is higher, right? You can post that come to the local market, but you know that the amount you actually gain from a global market is higher. So in certain businesses, people do look at a global product rather than just a local market.
We people look for a hardware startup, like electronic hardware startup. So we are focusing on an Indian market economy. So what are the risk factors that we should take in building that company successful?
So your hardware product, is it a B2C or a B2B?
B2C.
B2C. Does anything like that exist in the market?
Yes, it exists in the market, but not in Indian market, but in outside in global market. There are products that compete with our idea.
Okay.
Okay, then.
But can Indian people pay? Right?
The problem is that the outside market, the rate of that product is very much higher that the local people could not afford.
Okay.
That we have made a idea that we have made a device that fit to that local people, so that local people can afford also and high-end people can also afford.
Got it. It's, I think, a completely possible thing, right? Because how is it that you target this market and how will you be able to actually provide them the value add they're looking at and not just the price is what something will work. So I don't think it should be a problem in terms of going only local even with a hardware product. It is relevance and paying propensity. Will you be able to survive with just the local market is what something you'll need to think of.
Thank you.
One second.
Do investors be particular about how their fund is getting utilized? Like, is it for marketing or is it product feature additions?
Yes.
And do they monitor closely? Like,
Yes.
Because as you said, like business models keep on changing, like month to month. So initially we will be raising fund for one particular purpose, but that may change over the course of time. So yeah, how will the investors treat that? Is it cheating? Or
No. Initially, I do want to know what your fund is going to be utilized for, right? You're raising and is all the money going in for marketing? I will not give you money, right? Because we need to think of where else the money is going to grow. Only at Series C, D level, you'll pour in money because you want to scale. In an early stage, you will need people, you will need to do technology advancements, you will need specific other things because of which you have to spend money on those things, right? So in any particular thing, 30% is the max I will be okay with you pushing money on, right? Any particular segment of your fund utilization should be around 30%. I do understand that every stage things will change because tomorrow you could either pivot or you will find a different way of doing things. The investor normally sits on your board, so you obviously also tell him, boss, this is how it's going to change, and they will work with you in terms of figuring out if the numbers work out, right? It needs to make sense for you going forward. Completely okay with fund utilization changing. Everybody knows it. Nobody thinks that today what you give is going to stay on for the next 2 years. It will change in 6 months. But how drastically will it change is something I will look for.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, very good.
Ma'am, recently we have seen in some scenarios like the original owners or co-founders are being removed by like in the case of housing.com, now in Flipkart also, SoftBank and all, VCs are overruling and keeping the original founders aside. So from the perspective of as a founder, what can I do to prevent this from happening in my startup?
Okay. Early stages this won't happen, but post Series C, I would have put in so much money in your company that I have the right to be choosing who's going to be sitting on the board. Okay. That is the thing which you'll need to keep in mind. The moment you raise more money, the other guy has more power than you. Why do guys get pushed out is because either there are some ethical issues or because they are not able to achieve what they initially thought, right? Founders go with a particular vision, but market changes. So are you actually going along with the market? Maybe you're not. So I might get in a professional CEO to actually help grow the business. It's not necessary that the founders actually continue on. If you actually look at the US market, easily 20 to 30% guys have professional CEOs running the business, and which is completely fine. Because at some stage, the company becomes bigger than you as a founder, right? You shouldn't be holding on to it so hard that you're not letting go, and the company is going down under. But if you are able to change and you're able to, go with the things, I don't think people actually remove the founders. There are cases only where, they think either there is a difference in opinion on how the business should grow, and you're not able to see the growth which is happening in the market.
Ma'am, like in the case of Facebook and all, Zuckerberg, I have read somewhere that Zuckerberg cannot be put down by any of the directors of the investors or shareholder council.
Okay.
So if in that scenario, what is
Zuckerberg has been able to keep Facebook at today's stage, right? He's been able to modify the product also over course of time, and he's keeping up with times. Like I'm saying, if you're able to keep your product growing and you're able to build the business as a founder, I will not take you out. I will take you out only when I think that you're not able to see what the company can become, right? And I'll get somebody else in. I know you're not convinced, but end of day, as an investor, I will still have the right, okay? Because I would have put in so much money. But the only thing is, if you are able to do your job as a founder, I will not take you out ever, because that's not what I want. I want the company to grow so that I can make my money as an investor, right? And if you as a founder are able to do it, I have no issues. Why will I ever pull you out? Because you have the vision for the company. But if your vision is completely different than my vision as an investor, that's also why I said it's extremely important for you to get on board guys who go with your vision of the company. So as long as the same are in line, it's a lot more easier in terms of continuance.
I mean, if that such a conflict is sometimes likely to happen in a company, so can at that time can we stop the agreement, have a breach the agreement, and
You can stop what? Sorry.
if such a conflict is happening in our startup, both of we can never accept what that VCs or angels are asking us to do. So is at that stage can we stop the agreement which we had signed or?
No, you can't terminate the agreement because you are in disagreement with each other, because he already is a stakeholder in your company, right? Also will matter how much stake do you have. Do you have the controlling power? If you hold more than 51%, you're the guy who will actually make the decision. But if he holds 75% of your company, you've lost your control there anyway. You will still have a right to do a lot of things. That's why founders are still always on the board, even in much later stages. But you can't terminate an agreement like that.
My question is, how effective should be a BP, I mean a business plan, in order to get VC or angel funding attention? Should I include this or any other metrics?
In angel funding, business plan is not as useful per se, right? Because I know tomorrow the plan will change. Literally tomorrow the plan will change, right? So I'm completely okay with not having something which is going to go on the dot. But I will want to see the business plan to see what your vision is, right? What is it that you're thinking of for 15 to 18 months down the line or 3 years down the line? That is where I will look for in a angel round. In a series A, I will stress a little more on the business plan. I will also monitor it every quarter to see how much of a deviation was it, right? And why you're not able to achieve. So can I help you in terms of achieving it, or are we completely going bonkers on the numbers, right? But in early stages, not as much.
You have shown different stages of the funding. So at which stage, how much stake each investor can take in the company? For example, the seed funding stage, is it mandatory that we have to give some stake to the funders? Or how does it varies?
So at different instruments, you can use a convertible debt where you don't give the stake up front. So you hold off the valuation, but they will get a stake later on. But like I said, irrespective, I think I already answered the question in terms of stake. Normally in the angel stage, you're looking anywhere between 10 to 25% stake which you'll give out. It could be today, or it will be a post the next round, conversion. You can today take convertible debt, but give him equity much later based on next round's valuation.
What about the seed funding stage? Is it mandatory?
With friends and family?
Yes.
Friends and family, again, people normally don't end up giving stake in the beginning because they also want to see if I'm able to grow. But that's an understanding you need to have with them, right? You can say I will keep it as a debt right now and I will convert it at a later stage. But you will potentially have to give them equity, or you can give the money back. It's again understanding between you and them because it's more a personal relationship.
Okay. Also, in a different scenario, what is the difference between a grant given and some investor coming in? So in the case of the grant, I think there's no need for it.
Yeah, grant is not an investment, right? Grant is something normally people end up giving so that you'll do a particular project, right? There is a end result which I expect out of it, right? There needs to be a deliverable on it, normally on a grant. And grant is normally given either by public bodies or foundations because they want to achieve a particular goal. Investors don't give grant.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, let's say a startup has come up with an idea to solve a problem for a specific group of society, like let's say the visually impaired or the mentally challenged or people suffering from dyslexia, that kind of group of people. And let's say it's a hardware product. And they have come up with the idea, they have validated the product, and they are in need of financial stability, that is funding that is. So in such a situation, will they be able to go to an angel investor? Will the angel investors be interested in such an idea? Because in this case, the market is kind of really specific, right? It's not a big market. So what are the options for such a startup?
So in terms of these, while it's a very niche market, in India maybe you will have 20,000 customers. But can the same product actually be used in maybe Africa, Australia, I don't know, anywhere else, right? Can you actually sell the product in any other country? Which means the market will grow, right? If it's a very niche product, I will want to see, can it be a more global product so that your market is bigger? End of day, as an investor, I want to see, can I get an exit, right? And I will get an exit only if multiple guys actually come into play. And why will a VC invest? Only because the market is big. Or there is going to be a flush of money into particular segments, right? Only then will I invest. But there are specific funds who look at impact investments because they know it will take 6 years to grow. The thought process is very different. So they look at investments very differently and they know the growth path is very different. So, but there are investors who look at it.
Yeah, so what about like this specific route called social entrepreneurship? Like, what is the scope for that in India?
This, like I said, there are investors in India also who look at it. There are enough investors who look at it in India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not so scalable, or that's okay?
I think initially they didn't have that model, right? So when they raised the initial money, it was different. And then you come to a stage where you think that this is a better model for me in terms of business. Yeah. Business models always change, right? And I will build the team differently or build my product differently going forward because I think something else is more impactful. I'm able to get more revenues because of a particular model. Yeah. So people will look at an opportunity cost, right? So in terms of saying, is this model better or is this model better? So it's in terms of you convincing the other guy that how can this model be better than that guy, right? You could have 100 customers, you could have 1,000 customers, but from this 100 I'm getting 1 crore, from this 1,000 I'm getting 10,000, which is better. That's all there is to it.
Good morning.
Yeah.
The energy you are carrying is really amazing. One question to you is, would you like to join us as a business consultant? Or if you are so busy or you're so happy in your life, how we can avail your service as a consultant? Like, we really, it's great thing, the energy you are carrying is really immense.
We will keep the questions relevant to this workshop right now.
It's a progress of, the establishing our network and all these things. So it's a straight question to you. Would you like to join? Or how we can avail your service in future? Because today we can see you today. Tomorrow you are somewhere. How we can...
I'm still with the company, so you can reach out to me in the company and we can work together.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this segment? Cool. So when an angel investor investing with all these other 5-6 things which I spoke about, I think one of the key things which they do look at is product market fit. Sometimes you might not have achieved in the angel stage, but you can showcase that there is a potential that before Series A at least I have achieved a product market fit. And the Series A guy definitely looks for it. And how will you even measure a product market fit, right? Because there are multiple definitions across the spectrum, but how will you actually say I have achieved product market fit, right? When do you feel that it's not happening? It's not growing virally. Maybe it's a B2C product, not a viral growth. People are not talking of it. There are no positive reviews of it. Media is not talking of it. All these kind of give you an indication that there is probably something which is not fitting right? Because if not, somebody would have adopted it immediately. When will you know that you've actually achieved it? Absolute virality in your product growth. Guys are actually approaching you for sales and saying, you know what, I heard about your product from XYZ other person. Can we actually work out something, right? People are coming to you. Media is coming to you. You don't need to be actually doing a PR for media to be coming to you. They'll actually dig through because if they found from somewhere else that there is something which is actually growing viral. So the media will actually start talking about you. VCs will automatically follow, right? Or angels will automatically follow. They look out for people where they do think that there is something which they've achieved. You could be in complete stealth and be able to do business, and somebody will look out and say, hey, I think what you're doing is fantastic. Can we actually work together? So product market fit is something which most of Series A investors will definitely look out for. So before you go in for that, you will need to ensure, are you actually checking the boxes there to give them comfort? So there are multiple stages the company can be in. You're in ideation, you've just created the product, you're in POC, or you've launched it in beta to a smaller set of people, you've gotten your early revenues from initial set of people, and then let us say you're in steady revenues because you know there's consistency in terms of revenues coming into play. In the Indian market, to be very frank, ideation is almost nil. I will not give funding to an ideation company unless the guy is a serial entrepreneur, has built businesses and exited profitably. So I know that guy has a capacity to actually build a business, right? Or he's a guy who has been in a particular space for the last 15-20 years, knows in and out of the industry, and has found the gap in the industry and is creating a product. I will only then bet on him. These are the only two scenarios when there could be a bet on an ideation stage company. If not, I will not invest, right? So ideation stage, you might as well forget going to an investor. Next key stage is the proof of concept. Here again, there have been enough companies which have gotten funded, but are you differentiated? This stage is where I will completely bet on differentiation than anything else, because there's no traction. What is it that I will look at? How different is your company? Is it a new company which nobody else has thought of? Or is it a company where there are 5 other guys doing the same thing, but you have a fantastic USP that I will actually take a bet on, right? So that becomes important. So POC also investors invest, but numbers are way smaller. Maximum you will see is in early revenues, which basically means that B2B product having an initial traction, getting some money from pilot investors, or you're a B2C product which is doing transactions and are able to generate initial revenue, right? Which means you have thought through your monetization model, you know that you can potentially make money, and you have a roadmap for the same. So most of the companies that are actually raising funds in the market are early revenues companies, while the rest of the other ones are slightly better. So the next key thing, when you go to an investor, what is it that he will look for, right? We spoke about all these things, but how do you present it? Presentation is one, pitching is another. But assume you're actually sending it over email, or you have put it up on Let's Venture, or you put it up anywhere else where people can look at the deck. That's your first phase. So your deck will be the most important thing for getting the initial attention, right? So what will you actually put in your deck? All that we spoke about is something which you need to actually put in your deck. But how effectively will you put it in the deck becomes really important. And no document type pitch decks. 3 bullet points, 4 bullet points at the max. Because I don't have attention span to be sitting and reading through things. So your deck should be very crisp. Maximum you should go to is 15 slides, right? Cover all the aspects, but can you make it maybe, take the help of a designer friend, do whatever, more graphics, less text will actually speak louder, right? So can you actually plug in those things into your deck to make it more attractive to an investor to actually want to talk to you? The deck should be your first speech to the investor, and he'll say, I want to talk to this guy because I think he's thought through completely in terms of what he needs to be doing. Team, again, is the first thing I will look for. What is the team? Relevant team, pedigree. Those are the things which you need to put out, right? In terms of not saying, I am doing this sales, I am doing marketing, but hey, I come from a sales background and I'm heading sales here. I come from Google and I'm heading the tech here, right? So what is it that you're actually showcasing even in the team becomes important. It's not just your face, it's about what you put in there. The 2 statements which put in there will make a difference. I had another company exited, I'm doing this, bang on, right? I would want to talk to you. So what is it that you will put even in the founding team will become important. Then you will look at traction, scale, your revenue model. All these aspects are something which you'll actually look at. So start off maybe from below in terms of saying, what is it that you're actually trying to solve, right? There is a problem statement and there is a solution. The solution is your product. So build a story in your deck to say, this is why I'm creating something. So build the story along the lines of saying, this is the problem, this is the solution. And this is how big the market is, right? Which is why I'm actually looking at this market. And this is what I've created to solve these issues. How am I going to make money? If I were doing the next 2 to 3 years, how will I make money? If it's a B2B, most important in terms of saying, in a B2C, you will want to say 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line is when I'm going to make money. Or if I'm a consumer services product, yes, I will want to know how you're going to make money now, right? Why are you looking to raise money now? Becomes important. It is a story. You don't put it as a title onto the page and say why now, but it's more about building the story of why you're raising money now, right? All these things will actually answer the question. You have achieved a traction where you know you're ready for scale, right? You achieved a product market fit, you know you're ready for scale. Is your deck actually telling this, right? That becomes really important. What is your traction? What is your fund utilization? I need all of it. Competition. How different are you from the rest of the guys? You need to know your competition. You need to put up your strengths against the competition, right? There are 5 guys like Flipkart who are there, but Flipkart is doing better. Why? Simple. So you need to have specific points of why you're better than somebody else. And you need to plug it in. Possibly 7-8 slides is actually something which you can do, end of day. But if you want to take 15 slides, go ahead, but max should be 15 slides because I will not give more than 3 minutes to a deck. 3 minutes is the time you should think if somebody runs through it, is it possible? Assume you can't do graphics, you're not great at doing all those things, completely fine. White slide, 3 points. Do not put a story. If you're putting anything more than 5 lines in the deck, in the slide, I will not read it. My first slide, I'm out. So it's very important to capture the attention of anybody else, be it an investor, be it somebody else, right? You need to capture the attention. How do you capture attention is keep it very crisp, keep it to the point, putting a point across. Innovative ways are better, but keep it simple. That is what you need to do in your deck. In terms of how long somebody will actually look at each slide, that's what the number is. So overall, you will actually end up doing a 3 minutes. So somebody look at 10 seconds, 15 seconds. This is basically pulled out from our platform to see how much time somebody is actually spending on the slide deck, right? In terms of financial interaction, right? And on team. That's where I will spend most of the time seeing if it's going to be relevant for me to be actually investing or not.
See, I do understand that the format is a PowerPoint presentation, but is it that something that we make in front of the investors, or is it something that we send it over to you? Send it over to them?
It could be both, right?
Because you said 3 minutes and attention span time and all those
If you send it to them, it's 3 minutes. If you're sitting in front of him, obviously you're pitching your solution, right? So when you're sitting in front of him, you get normally 15 to 20 minutes or half an hour maybe to be talking through your product. You send it over email. When he looks at it, he takes 3 minutes. That's it. And normally, if you also see, most of the founders also create 2 different decks. One when I'm sending over to you an email, one when I'm actually using for pitching. When you're pitching along with the deck, you keep it more minimalistic, right? Because you're talking more. The more text on the deck, you will talk less because you're reading through the text. So you always keep it more minimal when you're actually pitching. But when you're sending across, could maybe have a couple more points which you want to put across. So that becomes important. Maybe have 2 different variations of the deck so you can present differently. So this is just a quick thing in terms of saying what are the key things which you compulsorily need to have in your deck. Your company purpose, your problem, what the solution is, like I said, why now, the market size, financials, competition, your revenue or business model, the team and the product. These are the most important things. And this is also something where we've written what is that actually people put, right? A lot of guys actually miss out the competition slides. A lot of guys miss out the why now slides. But these 2 are the most important things, actually speaking. Because I would want to see if there's anybody else in the market doing something similar. How are you different? I would want to know why you want to raise money today. Like I said, it could be a story, but is the story actually spun around in the 5 to 7 slides which I've actually put, that why are you raising money today? Ensure you plug in these things to make sure that you're providing the right pitch. Providing the deck is just the initial thing. literally just the initial thing, right? You put in your effort, you at least be able to get in front of the investor. If your deck is bad, you won't even get a meeting opportunity with the investor. So put that effort so that you will go at the next step, talk to the investor. But like I said, this is the first step. This is when the drudgery starts, and it takes 2 to 3 months post that to be actually closing a funding round, right? But first piece. Again, like I said, 3 to 5 minutes at the most, so ensure your decks are accordingly. What we'll do is, I think there is supposed to be a break sometime now. We'll take a break. We'll come back. I will run through different stages in terms of the fundraise, valuation as well as term sheet stuff. You need your coffee for the term sheet, so please go have the coffee and come back. And if there are any specific questions now, up to this point, we will take it and then we can break.
I have a question. Company has a product. It has competition too in the market. So it has very less margin to gain right now. But our post Series A, it will gain around 15%. Like right now, it is 2.5% or 5%. So angels or Series A investors will be interested in that kind of company.
It's not that you can capture the market today. You will not be able to capture the market even at Series C, right? But I want to see, do you have the potential to be capturing the market, right? If today somebody else builds a Flipkart, I won't look at it, because he's already taken enough of the market and it's going to take a lot of money for you to be breaking that, right? But I will look at something which is new. If there could be 3 other companies which are there, I'm okay to look at it if there is competition. But how are you making it different, right? If somebody else has to buy a product, how different is your product? If it's not different, why will I buy it, right? Either your target market is different, which means your product itself is selling it in a very different way. It could be price point, it could be features, it could be whatever. But I need to see a differentiation. If not, it's not an easy thing to actually sell. In a fundraising, this thing, what are the different stages? What is it that you need to look at in terms of valuation and term sheets? I will explain the terminologies to you guys. So, somebody asks, what is the dilution? How much should I actually dilute my company? How will I actually give a valuation to a company, right? Valuation is basically not just about today, it's about going forward. Do I see value in the company going forward? And that's how I will value you. Because if I look at only today, your valuation will be very minuscule. It doesn't make sense when it's an early stage startup. So I will look at future either revenue making capabilities, I will look at future growth capabilities, I will look at the overall market to see how I should value a company. And I mean value, what is the number I will put against it and say how much percentage of the company would I want if I'm investing X amount. There's absolutely no science to it in early stages, right? Because there are no numbers, I cannot put an analysis of a discounted cash flow and say you will be able to arrive at X number, because there is nothing which is there. Today there is no prior 2 years of traction which I can, based on which I can build a 5-year revenue projection or 5-year projection based on which I can give a value. So it is purely based on very subjective matters. It is based on what the market is today giving. It is based on your uniqueness, right? So these are some of the key things which somebody actually will look at when they are looking at valuation, right? Again, founding team. Are you a company which has zero background in the space and are doing a business? I will discount a lot of things. But are you a founder who knows the space, who has pedigree, who is a serial entrepreneur? Valuation is always higher. All serial entrepreneur guys have way more valuation than any other people, irrespective of background and all that stuff. So I will look at those things. So founder team profile becomes extremely important. Do you have an advisory board? Like I said, do you have people who are complementary skills, which means they've already filled up the gaps. The amount of effort from an investor goes down when there is a very solid advisory board, right? So I will also value that. And who are the guys on the board, right? If there are very strong names, they also come with a price tag from the investors, right? Which basically say, I will be able to value a company more because you have very solid guys on your board, right? So they also might have put in some skin in the game, some amount initially. what stage is your startup, right? Normally, if you are a beta launch or a POC, your valuations are normally lower compared to an early revenue or a steady revenue, because you would have, one, in terms of this growth of the company, you've reached a different stage, which means you will have a way higher traction. You would have figured out a lot more things in terms of how to build your business, right? In a beta, you're still figuring out, you don't know, you build a product, you're trying to test in the market to see if it will work or not. But in an early revenue or a steady revenue, you know it's actually working. So I will put a different tag to it because you already have revenue stream coming in, or you've built a virality in the company, right? Your month-on-month growth is 200%, 300% in terms of an app product. So you're building virality in it. I will give you a different tag. That's what I will look at. What is the customer acquisition cost, right? Is it too high? Is it manageable? All those things also come into play, because how much money will go into the company also will be there in the picture. So I will look at what the cost of the company is to grow the business. Scalability is a standard thing. Again, if extremely scalable product, I know it can be replicated across the world, I will give you more points compared to something which is super niche, because I don't know how big the market could be. I don't know if the next round guy is going to come or not. Maybe I will look at a strategic buyout at a later stage for the company. So I will not value it as much if this market is really small, but I'm still interested in investing in it. Valuation dynamics are very different in spaces, right? B2B companies predominantly have been getting lower valuations, while that is changing slightly now because the value of a B2B company has overall changed. B2C companies have always been getting higher valuations. In, say, a travel space, I don't see too much, in terms of the growth. I might not give the same kind of valuation as opposed to hyperlocal, which happened last year, right? So there are trends which you see in the market, which you as a startup need to be focusing on what's happening in the market. Please go through newspapers, VC Circle, Inc42, Your Story. They give information about startups day in, day out, right? You need to know what the pulse of the market is, what is growing. So there are always trends you will see. Some startups, some sectoral startups always get a better valuation compared to the others, predominantly of the kind of business itself, right? Study the exits. So in your deck, while everybody does not expect, it is good for you to have what is a potential way of exiting, right? 99.99% it's not an IPO. There are minuscule number of IPOs which have happened in the market in India itself, right? So saying IPO is a great thing, but all of us know it's not something which is a possibility. What are the next possibilities, right? Will you get acquired, or will you grow to a company to be a stable company and just continue on, right? Acquisition play becomes really important. Are there other strategic guys who can actually buy a product out? Then I know the value of the company is very different. Or do you have to actually keep struggling to be growing big, right? You have to get in more money, or can I get an exit at some stage? So it's also good for you to understand what is happening in the market, because when the question arises, you know what is a potential exit mechanism for an investor. Growth metrics, right? Like I said again, B2B grows very differently, B2C grows very differently, but how have you been growing, right? Are you growing one customer a quarter? Are you growing one customer a week? How are you growing, right? Again, B2C, month-on-month growth, am I seeing percentage 30-40% growth, or am I seeing single-digit growth? That will also make a difference in terms of valuations. Patents do hold value. Very, very niche spaces in healthcare or in other things wherever people are creating patents are extremely important. Again, competition, as I mentioned, you need to know who your competition is. If there are 10 guys, I will value very differently because there are already one metrics which are set because of those investments. Two, I will give you a lower valuation because I don't know if you'll be able to make it, right? Unless your execution is fantastic, I don't know. I'm betting on you to be taking that step that you're going to be executing really well, but when there is a lot of competition, I might not be able to give you a better valuation. So first mover advantages in terms of valuation is always higher. When there is competition, it does kind of go down. Just a quick chart in terms of where what comes, right? So first thing is to create your pitch deck. When you send it to the investors, you pitch. And I missed one crucial point. In terms of creating the pitch deck is only the first step, like I said. But how you pitch to the investor becomes the most important thing, right? You can have a fancy pitch deck, but you're not able to articulate what is it that you're doing, it's a goner, right? You need to know how to articulate, you need to know how to present your idea and show him that there is a huge value in him investing in you, right? Confidence levels, always practice and go. Practice your pitch, practice in front of the mirror, practice with other people, get feedback, because that's when you'll actually be able to hone your presentation skills, right? So always practice and then go pitch to an investor, because five guys can give you very different kinds of views of what you should focus on, right? What kind of potential questions will come. So those become really important. So pitching to the investor is by far one of the most important things. Some guys just commit like this because they love the passion of the person. They don't think and do their diligence, none of it. They'll say, I think you know what you're doing, I will invest in you. So the pitching becomes extremely important. They'll then normally give you a verbal commit saying, hey, I'm going to invest either a 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 50 lakh, whatever amount. So you collect all your commitments. Assume you are raising 1 crore, you speak to multiple people, you ensure you get all of it in place and say you have reached the 1 crore mark. And you will identify one of the guys who could potentially set your valuation, right? So there is a guy who understands your business and says, I will set your valuation. You will work with him in terms of creating the term sheet. What is the term sheet? Term sheet is basically an intent to invest and the kind of rights I would want as an investor in your round, right? So you get the term sheet going, post the term sheet, and term sheet is a smaller document which is minimal stuff. SHA is basically a shareholders agreement, which is a longer form of the term sheet, could be anywhere between 40 to 80 pages of documentation. Along the same side, most of the people also end up doing a legal and a financial diligence because they want to know, there is compliance taken care of. You're saying that you have 5 lakhs of revenue, but what is that actually there on the books, right? I will need to ratify all those things. So those things are also normally done by third parties who actually look at all these things. If there are huge red flags, I will not invest. I could have given you a verbal commitment, but I will not put the money in, right? Because some of the legal compliances are extremely heavy on penalty. The ROC can come down and put in a 2 crore penalty, you might have raised 50 lakhs. All the money is gone down the drain. So compliance becomes extremely heavy. It's the most boring thing to do and very cumbersome, but it's one of the most important things to do. I have had cases where investors have backed out of the deal because of compliance issues, right? DD is done, huge red flags, not investing because the company has not bothered about certain things and taken things too easily. What happens is, sometimes angel rounds also people end up doing when they're not bothered as much. In Series A, nobody will touch you. But then what happens, a guy who's invested in angel round anyways loses out. So a lot of angels also now have started taking a lot of consideration in terms of what is coming out in the DD report. So compliance is extremely important, right? Your board resolutions, your board minutes, you have offered, you have taken money from somebody, have you done the filings, are all the documents right? Shitty job, but you need to do it. So that is something which you guys really need to take care of. So now if everything is okay with the diligence, they go towards closure, which closure basically means everybody signs the SHA and you can do the call for money, you take the money in the bank. So this is a base, this thing of how your fundraising actually will go. Do you have any questions in this? Okay, like I said, so assume you've raised money from somebody, you have not done any filing for it, okay? When you raise money, you need to file with the ROC and say, I have raised X amount of money from this guy, I've given him so much shares, allotted the shares, all that stuff. You've not done it, there's a huge penalty. You've forgotten about it, it's been 6 months, 12 months, it's a 2 crore penalty, okay? if there is a transaction between related parties, right? So there is somebody who's a related party, you have taken money, you have not allotted, that comes under a different tangent altogether. Related party transactions also come under scrutiny, right? In terms of maybe you've gotten into some kind of a litigation, it's not about a penalty, but it's more about comfort from an investor that if he wants to be in a company which already has a litigation going on, right? I might not want to be investing in it. If it's a smaller thing, I'm okay with it. You know you can resolve it, not a problem. But if it's a big thing, it's going to continue on for a while, which means there is a cost from the company, right? You need to hire a lawyer, go to court, spend lakhs of money, might not be okay with it. So all those things will come into play.
If that funding is done before the incorporation date,
Before incorporation
of the company,
that you have taken in terms of your personal account, right? Anything which comes on the books is where it matters. You have taken money before, you incorporated after, the guy next to you is given the money, how will you actually give him the money back? You're then getting it on the books, right? Saying I'm transferring from my this thing to the company's account, all those things will come into play, which means I will see that there is a debt on your head. I will need to look at all those things. In the financial diligence, those things will be taken care of, right? Again, when you're taking money from investors, banking rules, or rather RBI rules basically say it has to be a new account. It can't be your operational account, right? You take it in your operational account, you will have to transfer it back, get into a different account. Doesn't work. There's a lot of issues going back and forth, right? So, new account only for investments. So, normally people just create an account, take the money and then transfer it off to their operational account, keep that account as is, static account. There could be issues in terms of foreign money coming in, right? You have not filed the regular papers which are required. Foreign money coming in as separate filings. So you need to get certain documents, then do the filing. All those are issues which you need to take care of beforehand. So it is good to have a very solid company secretary who can actually help you with these things. They'll know what needs to be taken care of and they will do the work for you. But very important.
So, is there any checklist we have, or you can help us with meeting across these issues with your experience, so that we? Okay. Is there any checklist for legal and these finance related issues which you have come across in startups
issues
doing
per
it?
se can be across the spectrum, right? I don't know one specific issue which could be a thing, right? I've seen last 2 years 100+ deals, and everybody has different kinds of issues. So it's very difficult to pinpoint.
Yes,
right? But there are certain things which, say when they're doing a diligence, they will ask you for specific things. That is something which we can provide. You know these things need to be there, right? If those things are not there, then it's an issue altogether all itself.
Yeah, but startups, can be related to different domains, right? So there should be basic minimum things which a legal advisor should be,
So that's why I said it's very important for you to have a very good company secretary who will tell you that as a private company, these are the things which you need to have. You need to have some licenses, right? If you're a food company which is doing anything with food, you need to have a separate license. You need to have a Shops and Establishment Act license, right? There are some things which you need to have. And the company secretary is the best guy who will tell you, check mark, XYZ things have to be there because this is the kind of business you are in. So every business will be different. So he will be able to tell you better. You can have you don't have to have your own, right? You can, any other company you can just hire and say, can you do it for me on a regular basis, right? Once in 6 months, can you actually review certain things, get things done for me? Yeah. So nobody has in-house CS.
Yeah, another thing is who really does the valuation? Like, is it an mutually agreed agency? Or
mutually agreed investor and founder. Founder and investor.
Founder and we have a mutually agreed agency, third party.
No third party. There is no third party involved in this.
Yeah,
I'm an investor in your company and you will talk and close it out.
The valuation is done between us.
Yes. So I will, on all the points which you have mentioned, I will also look at comparables which are happening in the market. I will look at what the total fundraise amount is and say, this is what I think your company is worth, right? You might think otherwise. So there is a negotiation which happens. And wherever you're comfortable, you kind of close it out at that and say, this is where I'm actually closing my valuation at.
Speaking of valuation, ma'am, recently, actually this happened in February. a company called Wix. It's an Israeli company. They bought deviantart.com, which is just a community of artists online, for $36 million. Right now, what Wix is saying is that their company, that what they've made, through the changes they've made to DeviantArt, it is now valued at 46 million. And that is, no, not 46, $460 million. That is, I cannot believe that they bought something for 36 and are trying to say that it is worth 460 right now. So what is your perspective on that, ma'am? How is that valuation, like, how did they come to that?
I don't know the context, it can be very difficult for me to say. But yeah. When I buy a company, I buy for specific things, right? And then going forward, he could be saying that it's because of the potential I have, right? I could be valued at X because I have a fantastic potential, and because of this buyout, I've achieved a different scale, right? I don't know, in terms of 10x is not a possibility in 6 months, so I don't know the context for me to actually be talking about it. I'll be frank there. Yeah. So in terms of valuation, couple of definitions, right? When I say I'm valuing you at X, I mean something called a pre-money valuation, which means before the money hits you, that is the valuation. That is what I will value you at. What is the post-money valuation? Your pre-money plus what you totally raise is the post-money valuation. These are key terminology. So when anybody says I'm valuing you at X, it means it's a pre-money valuation, right? What is a dilution? Dilution is basically the percentage of your company you're actually giving away to the investor for the amount you're raising. So dilution is basically how much you've raised divided by the post money. Simple maths, but very important for you to know. To how much that you're actually diluting, right? As divided by post money will give you the dilution of the company.
When is the ideal time to set up an option pool?
Option pool?
Yeah.
If you're just two founders, you normally don't bother about it, right? The moment you start hiring some key people, the only way to attract at a lower salary is an option pool, correct? So if you have to promise that, you need to carve out a particular segment in the cap table. So ideally, before an angel round, we normally say you need to create it, right? Before you take investments, create it off so that it's already there in place to be taking care of things. Key hires, always better to give ESOP because they will have better skin in the game, they perform better, they also feel a part of the company, right? And you can afford to get them at a lower price.
Is it okay to ask for a NDA to investor?
Nobody will give it to you. Nobody will give it to you. Nobody will give you an NDA. Because as an investor, I will see hundreds of companies, right? The only thing is, like I said, when you're talking to an investor, also do a check if some key investor, what is the kind of person he is, right? Is he an ethical guy or not, right? So there could be guys who potentially will tell another startup, hey, you know what, why don't you take features from this and build it on your stuff? That's where normally a startup would come. But as an investor, I will never give an NDA because I see hundreds of startups day in, day out. And
But
if I start signing...
But maybe in the initial deck, I may not be showing all the financial details or the other such stuff, or the estimations and all. But maybe at the later stage, I may show all the financial stuff.
So normally what ends up happening is you can put a thing that there are some startups where they've had a very good rapport with the investors, say that there's a non-compete, which basically means you can't invest in a competition, right? You could talk, but if you don't invest, why will you ever give out any information, right? So some startups are able to pull it off, but most startups can't that because investors again invest in similar startups across. So assume you know that the investor's already invested in a similar startup, you don't even approach him. You need to do your diligence and say, I'm not going to approach this guy because I don't know if there is ever going to be an ethical issue there. So you can take your call. But nobody will sign an NDA.
And is it okay if a founder takes a minimal salary?
Yes. Founder salary is important because he needs to survive. The investors do ensure that there is some amount of salary going in. But normally is a small quantum, right? Again, depends on the age of the founders and how much of obligations he actually has towards other things. The max in an angel round, it will go up to is $1 lakh a month, right? For younger founders, it's normally around 50K. So anywhere between 50K to a lakh per month is where there is this thing. The early senior guys, it could go up slightly higher because of various other reasons. But you raise a lakh, and if 25 lakhs is going to the founder, not okay with it, right? Because it doesn't work. How much is it that you're raising and how much will go into the cost is where it will make a difference. So we spoke about the pre and post money. So when you speak to your investor, you've decided the valuation and said, hey, you know what, my company's valuation is at 10 crores right now, raising 2 crores, so your dilution is 2 by 12. You're done with the initial portion of it. Next what, right? How do you actually go through the fundraising process and close out what you've gotten in terms of money? Your first step is to create a term sheet. Like I said, that's an intent. It is not a legal document. It is more like an LOI, right? You're saying, I want to invest. These are the quick terms you and I agree on, so that we don't have to sit and discuss later when the 80-page document comes. I've closed out on the terms upfront, and based on that, I will create the shareholders agreement. One of the questions which he asked,
Ma'am, my question is to add on to that question, founder salary. That founder's salary, we have to show it on the raise amount or not?
On the what?
On the raising amount, like if you are raising some 25 lakh rupees.
You keep your.
If we are raising some 25 lakh rupees, so should we have to show that on that founder salary will be taking this much amount?
Yes, I will decide upfront. Okay. There will be an employment agreement which the founder needs to sign with the company, and the salary will be decided by the board.
Thank you.
So.
Again, another stupid question maybe. Is there any way that a founder, is this okay that if a founder does not, if a founder says, I don't need a salary, I can work at $1 a month or something? That
Fantastic.
has happened.
You want to put all the money back, no issues. Yeah. But I will still force you to take a minimal amount because you need to survive. You need to have food, you need to go up and down from parents' money.
Yeah, that's enough.
No. Normally, to be more on the ethical ground, a very minimal salary also is something which they say that you should take, because you also need to feel that you're getting back something from the company, right? You're working tirelessly and then there's nothing which is coming out. It's great. Most of the founders don't end up taking also because they feel that they could be on paper, but people don't take because either they feel that I will fall short of money going forward, or I'm already falling short, I will not take salary. I have founders who have not taken salaries for the last 6 months because they don't have money in the bank, right? They need to pay their team, they need to pay for other things, they don't take salaries. There's always that case. So when you're getting it, you might as well take it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is it mandatory that at least there should be two founders, or a single founder can have a...
There's no mandatory thing. There are lots of companies with single founders.
So a proprietary company can make...
You can't raise money in proprietary company. Single founder, yes, but private limited only.
With 2 founders at least, right?
Minimum 1 founder. You can, normally a lot of people, what they do is, because you need a minimum of 2 in terms of creation and all that stuff, they get their parents or brother, somebody else also as a promoter who puts in the money. So you can keep them as this thing.
Except wife.
Wife also there is, because but in terms of building the business, like I said, founding team.
Because my co-founder...
Equity is what? X number of shares in the company is what the equity is. Cap table, by the way, is capitalization table, which basically says, which is another term for the shareholding table. Who are all the shareholders in the company? Could be you, your co-founder, maybe cousins who put in the money earlier on, and your investors now, and your ESOP pool. All of that comes under your shareholding table or the cap table, right? Without the ESOP is an undiluted cap table. Fully diluted cap table is with the ESOP. I will always calculate share price based on fully diluted cap table, because you've already done an allocation that X percentage is going to go, but you've not allotted it. There could be 10% which you have allocated but not allotted to anybody. So I will count it as an undiluted and a fully diluted basis. So,
excuse me, madam. Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
Madam, actually, what about the partnership firm, whether it is better for?
In terms of taking investments from
yeah,
investors,
definitely.
private limited only.
Only private limited.
Only private limited.
So it can convert to private limited in
You
future.
can convert to private limited and then take it. So like I said, equity is one of the key instruments. The other form of the same thing is a CCPS, which everybody would have heard that I need CCPS. What is CCPS? Is a compulsorily convertible preference share, which basically means at some point in time I'll convert into equity. It could be 20 years down the line, it could be 1 year down the line, it's my prerogative as an investor, but it will convert to equity share at some point in time. That is the rule, that you can't remain a preference shareholder all your life. Why do I want a preference share? Because I get preference over everybody else in certain aspects, right? I will cover a couple of clauses where it makes a difference. Companies winding down, sale happening, I get preference over everybody else. All other equity holders. Debt always is the first, but in terms of a shareholder, I will be the first guy who will get an exit. So I will prefer a CCPS. In India, you don't have a direct preference share, so you do a compulsory converted preference share. In US entities, you do have preference shares, so people take either preference shares or a CCPS. The other instrument is a convertible debt or a convertible note, right? Convertible note more in the US, convertible debt in the Indian context. Convertible again is a CCD, which is basically a compulsorily convertible debt, which is what Indian investors normally take. There is also another investment which is the non-convertible debt, which is an NCD, which normally people end up taking at much later stages. Can't be taken from foreign investors, and is just a debt which you can return back at a later stage with equity investments, with interest rates. In a CCD, it sits as debt today, but it will convert into equity going forward based on either maybe an equation, it could be based on your next round. You can create whatever kind of rule you want, right? Today, I give 1 crore worth of convertible debt, which will convert at a 15% discount to the next round valuation. Because today I can't take a bet on what the valuation is because it's too early. I don't know how to value the company. Because I'm not able to see the potential of the company today and put a number to it, I will let the next guy do it, right? I don't want to take that call. Indian investors, very, very, yes, you will normally define it as a series A or the next round with a minimum quantum being raised. You will put in a $2 million being raised. If it is a pre-series round, you'll say series A worth $2 million. At that round is when I'll convert. Assume you raise in between rounds of 1 crore, 2 crore, it doesn't convert at that stage, right? So you define the round of when it will convert, you define the discount of when it will convert, right? Basically saying that because you invested early, I will give you a discount to it, right? You shouldn't be investing at the same value the next guy is coming in because maybe you came in 6 months earlier. I will give you a better number. So I'll give you a 15% discount, I could maybe give you a 20% discount, 25%. Standard in the market is anywhere between 20 to 25% discount to the next round of valuation. Normally, a series A, which will at least be a $2 million value number, right? Not very common in India. There are enough guys who are doing it, but investors are not too comfortable because they want to see the number of what is the shares I hold. So I'm not okay with it. But increasingly we are seeing bridge rounds, right, or the rounds between the angel and the series A, where guys are raising, doing a CCT. Because at that point in time, you don't want to put a number and jeopardize the series A numbers because valuation of the next round is always going to be looking at the previous round numbers. I will want to see how different is the number from the previous to this. So I will not give a valuation normally in a pre-series A. I will go with a CCD with a discount to the next round.
In between. So does it actually get treated as a debt and will the founder be accountable for repaying that legally?
Legally, there are a lot of things which the company will have to do, but if there is no money in the bank, you can't do anything. So it's okay. Yeah. So if there is no money in the bank, the founder is not liable to be giving it back. So any investment today, the moment I invest, I have written it off my books, right? If it comes back, it's fantastic, but I know there is always a chance that it's not going to come back. As an investor, that's the way I go about it. CCT is only a way of actually navigating today's issue of creating a valuation number, nothing else.
No, suppose it's a pure debt like a bank loan. Maybe they can sue the founder and get its personal
Suing in
properties.
India, even better. You will never get through anything. But no, it won't normally happen. Because I'm going in with my eyes open that I might not get the money back, right? So there are terms, like I've written the liquidation preference, there are terms which say if X happens, I need to get so many things back. So that is there on paper, but whatever is possible is possible. In the other portion of CCPS again is because it has to convert to equity. Standard in the market is one CCPS converts to one equity, but I might also create different equations. Again, based on milestones, maybe I will do a complicated equation of a revenue number and something else and say it will convert to so many equity shares. I could maybe also work it around like a CCD. There are complex structures which people do, but most common is 1:1. In the US entities, mostly 95% of the deals are convertible notes or safe instruments, right? They don't like to value companies upfront. They say just take the money, figure it out, and then we'll think of the valuation. So in the US, most are convertible notes. There is a new instrument called the SAFE, which most of the other people do, which is slightly more founder friendly. So that's what is used. So just 2 or 3 key things in a term sheet, right? What is it that you will look for in a term sheet, or what is it the investor will negotiate in the term sheet? Quickly running through, there are, which I have not put in here, there are lots of clauses. One which basically gives out what the subscription is, what the rights of the investor are, right? Rights in terms of board, rights in terms of exit, and next rounds, right? Do I get to participate in the next round? If you as a founder sell shares, do I get to buy those shares? If an investor sells shares, does the founder have the right to buy the shares? What are the exit rights for the investor? If a big investor is getting out, can I go out along with him? All those things are actually defined in the term sheet. I can, if you guys want, go through all those clauses, or I will just focus on the 2-3 key things which an investor will push for and negotiate. We'll take it based on the time so that we can work accordingly. So what's a liquidation preference? You're selling the company, you are winding down the company, there could be different sale of assets. All those things I will define as a liquidity event in the term sheet or in the agreement, right? And at that point in time, the investor wants some money back, right? Because either all the shares are being sold or the company is selling the main asset itself. There could be a slump sale, right? In that case, the investor will say, I either want my money back, right? Or give me percentage of what an exit is, right? Today, assume your acquisition, he valued you, when he invested, the post money was 10 crore, he had invested 1 crore, so he has 10% share in your company, okay? Tomorrow, there is a sale of the company, it could be at 100 crores, right? Would I prefer taking 1 crore or 10% of the company? I would prefer 10% of the company. So normally there is an either or, which is where we tell the founders that that's what you need to push for. So that's something called a non-participatory liquidation preference, which means either you get your money back or you take percentage stake, whatever percent of the company you have in terms of an exit, right? And not both. Participatory is basically you get your money back plus from the remainder amount, you actually get a percentage, which is what investors obviously would want, but you need to push for a non-participatory liquidation preference so that there is some amount left for you as a founder also end of day, right? People say 1x, 2x, 3x non-participatory, which basically means I need 3 times the amount, 4 times the amount. Again, negotiate, come down to a 1x non-participatory liquidation preference clause. Works We have made it work in most of the companies, so I think it is something which can be negotiated and closed out on, right? What's an anti-dilution clause? Today, if you see, most of the companies are actually, or rather most of the investors are saved because of this, because every other company is going through a down round. Which means today you're raising money at 20 crores, tomorrow your next round is at 15 crores. Which means a guy who put in first is actually at a loss. So he'll say, compensate me for that loss because your next round is happening at a lower valuation than I invested you in, right? So there are multiple, again, ways in which you can actually create this anti-dilution clause. There is something called a broad-based weighted average. There is a full ratchet. Broad-based weighted average is something which, again, is slightly more, preferable, mainly because it takes care of a lot of other dilution issues. Full ratchet is beneficial for the investors, but more detrimental to the company. So we again say go for the broad-based weighted average. So what is the difference between the two? In a broad-based weighted average, so assume you're raising 100 shares, you're giving out 100 shares. There is one share which is at a lower value than what the last investor invested in. 99 shares are at a higher value, right? In a full ratchet, I don't care how many shares were given out at a lower value. Even if there is one share, I will want my anti-dilution to kick in and all my shares should be valued at that number, right? Cut down all of it, so irrespective of how much amount you're raising, you're at a loss there, right? So that's a full ratchet. Broad-based weighted average will also take into account how many shares at what value, right? So if it's just one share, the price difference is going to be very low, right? You will average out the price, it could be a 1 rupee, 2 rupee difference, and you will compensate him for those shares, which means you will give him extra shares for that number. That's how a broad-based weighted average is actually. There is a equation which normally is put out where you can calculate the price for the share and what you need to give out to the investors. So always again negotiate on a broad-based weighted average so that you are protected in case of a down run going forward. We covered the option pool. Normally 10 to 15% is what standard is. So create the option pool so that you can attract talent. Option pools are normally created before the angel round so that they don't get diluted, right? So if not, they will end up getting diluted. More shares are added, they won't like it. So it happens before the investment happens. Board composition. As I had mentioned, normally the lead investor would preferably sit on the board. You would end up having post an investment 3 directors, through 2 promoter directors, 1 investor director. He will sit through the board to kind of run through, in terms of strategic decision making, in terms of vote. He will need to vote on most of your crucial things to be able to take forward any decision, right? You're either creating a new line of business, you are, creating a subsidiary, you want to take a large amount of debt. All of those things run through the business and the investor director has to be okay with key things, right? All these things impact stuff going forward. What you decide in terms of a right today is also something as the next series A, series B will look at, right? I will see what your previous round agreements are. If they're better, I will want to demand the same things. I might not be the same, I might be somebody who look at non-participatory pref, but in your agreement it is a participatory. I will prefer a participatory. So I will say give me the same terms as last round. So negotiate hard in terms of making sure you are also protected. It's a balance agreement, right? Couple of other clauses where we do say, like I said, when an investor is selling, would you have the right to actually buy those shares? There is a clause called a promoter ROFO, right of first offer, where basically when an investor is actually looking to sell his shares, you have the right to buy it out. You're not able to sell your company to anybody. Nowhere you're getting an exit. But they find a buyer. They hold 10% of the company. The buyer wants 25%. How will he get the remaining 15%? He says, I will get the founder to sell his shares so that I can sell my shares. It could be a smaller quantum, it could be the whole company. But the investor has the right to be actually doing it, right? 5 years down the line, if he does it, and the company is not progressed anywhere, I think it's good for the founders also because it's not going anywhere. And if you're getting an exit, you might as well take it. But there is normally another thing which comes into play which says, anytime after my investment, if I get a guy who is ready to buy my shares, I can drag along the founders, right? But you can also put a number to it. Today, if I've invested at a 10 crore or a 20 crore valuation, but that guy is giving, say, 30 crore, will you allow him to actually exit at that time? You don't want to, because you think there is a potential for the company to grow. But is that guy giving a 200 crore valuation and actually buying out? Then maybe, right? So that is a negotiation which you need to do. And it's a business sense. So think through in terms of what my potential is as a company, where is it that I'm okay with, right? If they say anytime after today, if I'm actually ready to drag the founders, what number are you comfortable with, right? That's a negotiation which they're open to talking to, but you need to put numbers out to say, okay, is it a 100 crore, is it a 200 crore, what is it that I'm going to do? So that is one negotiation point which you can have. Post all this term sheet stuff is where your shareholders agreement comes. Either there could be 2 documents, which is a share subscription, which basically just defines out what the subscription amount is, what the valuation is, and the shares. And another document, which is the SHA, which could define the rights. But today we normally combine both and make it an SSHA, which is basically a share subscription holders agreement and holders agreement. So both of them will come in the same thing. It'll define a lot more things, go more in depth of each clause of how something is implemented. So it's a heavy document. But please go through every single document. If you have to go through online, understand, talk to people, but do not go in blind. Because you don't know what's going to affect you going forward, and you might sign on something which you're not comfortable with. So be very, very careful of what you sign. Look through the terms, understand, and then take a call of what you're signing. Sometimes it's okay to go down on valuation and be okay with it, but there are rights which could completely affect your business. So be very careful of those things and then take the decision. One of the other things which also comes into play is the founders agreement. If there is an employment agreement after the angel round, it actually takes care of a lot of things. But prior to an investment, ideally you would want to have a founders agreement. What is it? 2 founders, 3 founders. What is the role each of you have? Define the roles. What is the equity each of you hold? Define the equity. Create those things so that there is clarity upfront. Right? You don't want to be having bad blood going forward. Define everything, create the founders agreement upfront. If that's not there, normally what happens after an angel round, you need to have an employment agreement with the company. In that they will define out. They'll define your tasks, your role, and equity and your salary, all those things which come into play. Any specific questions on this?
Comes to me for a strategic partnership or strategic investment, does all these ways of doing things apply? Because he's not really an angel or this thing. You get the point.
You don't need to. In a strategic investment, if you're able to negotiate, you don't need to be giving out all these things. As a shareholder, there are certain rights which you can give. So you don't need all of these things. He doesn't need a board seat. He doesn't need to know of a lot of other things. It's okay. So for a strategic partnership, you can create a slightly more lighter agreement.
More to the conventional kind of...
Hi. In the options pool, besides the ESOP that is kept aside, is it fine that the founders are able to keep a certain percentage of non-dilutable shares for themselves?
Normally people are not okay with it, but today the law has also changed where ESOP can be given to the founders. So if at some point in time the investors feel that I think we need to compensate the founders because either their percentage is going down or we know that there is enough value for us to be giving out, so the board can take a call and give out shares to the founders.
So my question is that something that we can agree upon before signing the term sheet?
I have known of very few cases where investors are okay with signing off on non-dilutable. Also because I will tell you this. There are 2-3 founders. Tomorrow there is an issue, one guy gets out, but one is against his name. What will you do with that stuff? If you already kind of told him that this is your share, which is going to be undiluted and remain on, what are you going to do with it, right? So you also need to think of it on those lines and not just from an investor perspective, right? Like I said, most of this is not because of the investor, it's more from your end. As a co-founder, are you okay with it, right? Tomorrow if he steps out, what are you going to do? Think of those scenarios rather than an investor looking at it. If you can actually justify it to the other guy, then you can justify it to the investor.
There's one small question, like I was a little unclear on the cap table. So you included ESOP in that, and
Yes.
could you just define that once again or just explain it a little more?
Cap table basically shows who are all the shareholders in the company, right? So you can have a cap table without the ESOP. It's called an undiluted cap table, right? There is no other portion apart from the guys who already subscribe to shares and hold the shares. ESOP is just an allocation normally upfront, right? Unless you've already given out some shares. So that, unless you've given out anything, that's an allocation, so it's undiluted. If you've given out, anyways their names will be there. If X guy in your company has shares, it anyways comes against his name that he holds so many number of shares. So ESOP pool allocation is something which you can keep out and call it an undiluted. On a fully diluted basis, I will include the ESOP. Assume 10% of the company is ESOP, I will include that and call it a fully diluted basis. That is what I use in terms of calculation of share price, right? Because I want to know what is it allocated, because tomorrow all of the shares can go to your employees. That's why.
Thank you.
Hello, excuse me. This is again coming back to that NDA. You said it's not possible. So, what is the security when after we disclose everything, including our technology and everything?
Trust.
To the trust?
That's it. He's putting in money. Why will he want you to go
No,
down under?
in case if we are not, if we are going back, if we are not putting the money, how do we secure our, technology or ideas?
Okay. End of day, like I said, there could be 5 guys doing the same thing. Why you will succeed is only because of your execution capability. Okay? You will not succeed just because of technology. You will, unless you're able to sell what product you have created, nothing is going to work. So even if he actually takes your product and gives it to somebody else, it's not necessary that he can actually replicate it the exact same way.
Yeah, it could be different. Yeah.
So there is only so much which you can do.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry? No, in case if it is not patented, it may take a longer time to get it patented. Yeah, thank you.
Again. Hi again. My knowledge of all of this is confined to BTech HS course, Business Economics, so please excuse me. So going below strategic partnership as how about what is the case scenario for a sole proprietorship? Is any of this applicable? Can I expect any kind of seeding or funding? No, absolutely none.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, there are so many proprietorships and partnerships and all here. Some of the questions. No, I think, once you get some investment, I think you can change it to
You
limited
convert to a private
Convert
limited
it
and
to
then only
limited,
take
that's all.
investment.
So that kind of questions need not arise, I think.
You will take
there are
investment only
lot many
after
questions coming
conversion.
like that. Whatever be the framework of a company, it can be proprietorship, partnership. Once an investment comes in, you can
You convert and then take investment.
Yeah.
Not otherwise.
All
Not
right,
before.
but at this stage of my micro startup, again I stress on the micro, do I need any kind of board, be it a board of directors or a advisory board or a mentorship, whatever?
No, I think, if you are single,
I'm a sole proprietorship.
then go with proprietorship because compliances are much lesser.
Actually,
No compliances.
Yeah.
Go as proprietor. No,
Regulations are very easy in a sole proprietorship or a limited partnership. Only when you come to private is where there are a lot more regulations and filings which come into play. So if you're not taking investments, might as well remain in the shape you are right now and continue your business. When you're thinking of going for investments, you need to convert to a private limited company.
What exactly is the time frame if I have to set a goal? At this time, I have to be a private limited from a sole proprietorship.
Depends on what you want to do as a business.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yeah. For my friend, who was asking about the proprietorship thing, like, it's about a legal compliance because, for a private limited company, the amount of liability is limited to the amount of shares. But for a proprietor, if there is a loan, the whole liability comes to the partner or proprietor. So that's the reason why they are asking for a private limited company. So they are also safe. Yeah, I think that's the reason why you are opting for private limited company instead of a proprietorship, right? The person alone cannot, suffer all the loss. And okay.
Any other questions? Couple of things, like I said, in terms of the founders agreement, ensure you sign off upfront, define your roles, define the equity agreement between the both of you so that there are no issues going forward. Registration of your company, important in terms of where is it that you actually want to locate your company, right? Is your business purely Indian? Maintain it as an Indian entity only. You don't need to be setting up anywhere else. Is most of your revenue coming from the US? Ideally, you want to have a US entity because it will help in terms of sales. It will help in terms of complete management of cash and all the other aspects. So set up in the US, Singapore, where your market is, not just because of any other structure, right? So people create multiple structures in terms of saying I have a US entity as well as an Indian entity. You could maybe have a subsidiary, you could have a service agreement between the two entities. The legal partner will suggest based on what actually works for you guys, right? So it is important to actually go through that cycle in terms of understanding why you want to create an entity somewhere else. So set up and register entities accordingly. Like I said, accounting things in place, company secretarial in place, very important. You don't need to have anybody in-house, but please ensure that you actually get outsource people to work on all your compliances in terms of making sure your numbers are maintained and all those works. Employment agreements, very important. NDAs in your, along with your employment agreement, very important for all your employees, right? Because you could be dealing with a lot of proprietary knowledge, so it is important that you actually sign off from the employees there. Investors also push for it and say make sure that your employees actually sign off on an NDA as well as an employment agreement. I think I'm almost done. Yeah.
Suppose we have a vesting period defined in our founders agreement, and there is a funding event happened. So what happens to the vesting period? Should it continue, or how does it happen?
In an early stage, it supersedes. So you actually start vesting all over again. In first rounds, unless the company actually has been operational for a couple of years, I will almost have zero vested upfront. But if the company has built over the last 1-2 years, I could maybe give 25% vested already, and then I'll vest the less 75% over the next course of 3 years, right? And 3 months at a time, or 6 months, depending on this thing. So there is always a vesting schedule which gets included again in your term sheet. I will also put in a lock-in because I don't want you to run away in 2 years. I'm betting on you in the early stage. I will say that you can't sell your shares to anybody in the first 2 years, right? After that, you can, but you'll have to ask me. Anyways, there is a right where you have to first sell it to me if need be. But you can't sell the shares. In a way, that's also good for the founder because all the founders are in the same boat. If one guy wants to get out, he can't do the same thing, right? There is that obligation which remains, which he can't sell. So in a co-founder thing also that kind of it gets taken care of. It's better for the company. I think he has a question.
Yeah, madam, you already put up the nations, and register your company. You already put up 3 nations name. So, is there any benefit, if you are registering the company in Singapore, especially, Flipkart, all those companies are registered in Singapore, I believe.
I can't hear you properly, sorry.
Yeah, Flipkart, so those companies are registered in Singapore. So, is there any benefit, if you are comparing these 3 countries, is there any benefit, we have if you are registering in Singapore?
So like I said, the key reason why you ideally should be registering is because of your operations being there. Flipkart and all is a very different example because it's a very complicated structure in terms of FDI, right? So they created a very complicated structure because they couldn't take foreign money otherwise. And that was a key reason, right? In terms of e-commerce companies taking foreign money, not allowed in India, all those regulations were there. So they created a different structure because of it. If not, ideally you would want to look at it only because your place of business is that country. Singapore, a lot of Singapore investors also would prefer you to be in Singapore because the government gives a lot of grants. The government also pushes a lot of money into companies registered in Singapore and are creating some employment in Singapore. So that is also another reason why some people actually go to Singapore and set up shop.
But madam, Flipkart are registered in Singapore, but actually they are asking for the tax, relaxation, in India. But I couldn't understand the meaning of, registration.
Different.
Yeah.
This thing. I don't think we should go to Flipkart example. Bad example. But a lot of complicated structure, like I said, right? So they created it for a different reason. So they're looking at different, aspects.
But their main, operation hub in India only. So that's why. Yeah.
So this is just a situation. Is it necessary that I need to register in separate places? Like I received a client from the US recently. So that doesn't mean I need to register.
I'm saying if majority of your businesses, it is better mainly because for a US guy to be actually doing a transaction with a US entity is easier, right?
Yeah.
And it's a better face. Or maybe your market is only US, right? You're selling a very niche product for the US market. You ideally would want to look at a US entity because it changes perception of why somebody will actually transact with you. But for one client, you wouldn't do it. If majority of if your base is supposed to be only the US, then you will set it up there. If not, no.
We are operating from India but working globally. Is that?
And India is okay. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other questions? So I'll close it with this thing, right? In terms of saying, do you need to raise a seed round? Actually, do you need to raise money at all, right? Everybody thinks it's fashionable to be raising money. It's a fad. Every day there is in the newspaper, X person raised money, Y person raised money. Fantastic. I think I also need to raise money. My friend raised money, I need to raise money. But do you really need to raise money is the biggest question you need to ask yourselves, right? There are businesses where you don't need to raise money. And you can still be very profitable, right? Biggest example I can give is this guy called Pallav Nadani, who's an investor, Fusion Charts founder, 100 plus crore, bootstrap company, right? You can build businesses without raising money from other people. You also need to know that how is it that you want to grow. The moment you take money, you're on a treadmill, right? Do you want to be running all the time? How is it that you want to take your company? What is your mentality? What is your psyche? Based on that is what you need to think if you really need to raise money. And why do you raise money? You raise money to be actually scaling up really drastically, right? You know you want your curve to be a hockey stick. You'll need the money then, right? Those are the cases where you actually need to raise money. If it is a lifestyle business, don't raise money. Investors also are very wary of investing in it because they don't know if VC money will come in after, right? So very important for you to actually think through if you need the money at all. So that's where I will close this thing, unless you guys have any specific questions. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So I'll just give a final thing with respect to Let's Venture. I told you what we guys are. So we are an online marketplace for startups to raise angel money predominantly, but we're also looking at Series A and pre-Series A from funds. Register on the platform to create a profile which basically has product, traction, team information. So the whole works which an investor actually looks at. You can then move into a phase called Investor Connect, where you basically look at all the investors who are there on the platform. What is it that they are looking at? They look at specific sectors, they look at specific markets, they have also given their thesis. So you can filter out based on that. You can reach out to the investors on Let's Venture based on this, right? So you know who are all there, you know what their portfolio investments are, you know what they're looking at, which means your capability of understanding the investor is better, and you can reach out to the investor through the platform. We also have a mobile app, so you can actually chat with the investor on the platform and the mobile app. And if there is enough signaling, so today Let's Venture is not the investor, so we don't want to make the call in terms of you being fundable or not. We only take the call in terms of saying, are you funding ready or not, right? Which means, are you at the stage where you can actually go to the investors? Do you have a complete profile? Are you registered? What is the status of your company? Only then will I let you actually go and connect to the investors. That screening is done by the team. Post that, it's more a platform driven game to see what is the kind of signaling the investors are giving, right? There are multiple investors looking at the startups. Do they like your startup? Are they chatting with you? Are they actually saying, I'm going to commit to the round? All those things are recorded. And the companies which are actually receiving most interest are bubbled up to more investors, right? Which is more like a market driven thing. So it's a signaling effect. So when we know there are more interested investors, we also work with the company in terms of actually working with them in terms of closing their round. So we work then when we know that the market is ready to actually be investing in them, and we are not taking that call, it's the market call, we work with them in terms of helping closing their round. That's where the team actually comes into play for any engagement. So that's in brief how Let's Venture actually works. So we charge 2% of what we help raise from the platform. We have also recently started charging a small equity portion of the company, anywhere between 0.5 to 1%, depending on the stage of the company. And why is it that we are taking? We are not a transactional platform only anymore. We are looking at building the customer connect, one either through the platform or through third-party tie-ups. So we are also helping the company in terms of growing their business. So we actually make the connects with third-party people so that they can scale, right? That is one portion. Also in terms of the next rounds, platform has almost around 250 plus VCs from across the world. So we also work with our portfolio companies in terms of next round funding also.
Okay, one final question. What is your degree of preference in investing in tech startups or non-tech?
We don't invest, like I said, but if you look at the space predominantly in terms of angel investments, angel investors prefer tech startups versus non-tech startups.
Like IoT, fintech?
Anything which is tech enabled, right? The drive needs to be from the tech, mainly because whether we get exit or not, it's a shorter span in terms of knowing whether a company can actually scale.
What about you? I mean, what about Let's Venture?
We don't invest, right? We are not an investor. Yes. No, we don't. We are an online platform, and most of the investors also are not in a particular location. That's the beauty of the platform. And you can be anywhere, and you can raise funds from people from across the world. It can happen anywhere. So normally in the round, there are initial 2 or 3 investors who like to meet because they are evaluating the company in detail. And like I said, they'll normally be the lead investors. They do face-to-face meetings. The rest of the investors don't do face-to-face. You can do on the phone, Skype calls, and do the comments. Yeah.
Actually, how Let's Venture helps startups in early stages, not to raise funds, like to evaluate their idea or to let them understand the scope of the market and like in a direct sense, not like through, I know you are doing a great job through these seminars, but how you help them personally in evaluating their idea in the early stage.
So we don't evaluate the idea. Like we said, we are not experts, right? If the company is in super early stage, that's not a stage which we actually work with the company on. But why is it that we say people should actually register on the platform is one, in terms of investors actually giving feedback. If they say, I'm not going to invest in you right now, they will give you a reason as to why they won't. That's something which you need to take constructively in terms of building your own idea, right? So the investors also are looking at your profile and giving you any kind of visibility in terms of what potential is there. But if you're just an idea stage company, we don't work in terms of creating, helping you in terms of figuring out the market, not those things. We don't.
We are not an idea stage company, we are an in-market company actually.
Okay.
But we are actually looking for somebody to look into our product or like the market share, like the possibilities in the market that we can, how we can scale and we can find new markets. And obviously how we can find funding also. But will you be helping us by like providing with some advisors or kind of?
So what we can do is we do have a lot of information in terms of how people actually look at market share, what is the different ways. So we can provide a lot of content which is there. Sometimes we can do connect to some specific investors who can help out on that.
Hi ma'am. Just want to know what are the registration fee for this, registering the portal?
There is no registration fee. It's
No
free for
registration
the
fee,
startups
right?
to register.
And
Yes.
one more thing, if we are updating the profile, as you said, so you have to mention all the business plan in the portal.
No, business plan is not something which we ask for.
So we are not revealing that, right?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You can also hide the info. So there is this portion of keeping your profile in stealth.
Yeah.
So if you want only some investors to see, you can actually keep it in stealth and not show it to all the investors.
Yeah.
Or you can keep it public and all investors can see it, right? Only the investors can see your profile, startups can't see your profile. From the investor side, like I said, you can also keep it as a requesting for download. So they can't automatically download. If all investors can see, but an investor requests for the information, it's your call if you want to give it or not.
Right. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Hi, Sunita. My question is regarding term sheet actually. For early stage startups, so all the terms that you mentioned are basically, we want to negotiate. As founders, we really want to negotiate, but at times we won't be able to. But for super early stage startups, it tends like, sometimes they don't understand the terms and they sign it and often get into trouble later. So what are the terms that you see as red flags, absolute red flags, that are non-negotiable in terms of founders?
So one, as I had mentioned in terms of the LICPREF, preferably a non-participatory 1x. Like I said, there are multiple people who ask for a 2x, 3x participatory, no go. You also need to see how is that going forward, right? Like I said, the same thing is going to repeat in all your future rounds, no go. That is something which you can negotiate hard and actually get it done. Non-participatory 1x is something which is possible because a lot of investors do it. It's something which you can negotiate on. Buyback is not something which we promote, right? Buyback is a clause where basically the investors expect the founders or the company. There are two things. One can be a company buyback, there's others a promoter buyback, where the companies expect to buy back the shares of the investors at a particular IRR, or the promoter, if the company can't, the promoter has to. We say it's a no-go. Buyback is not something which is, if you're at a stage where you don't have the money, what is the point of even having the buyback? So that means you become personally liable to be actually giving the investors an exit, which is something which we push for the investors. Founders assume there is a stage where you need the money and you really need it, you have no other alternative. Max you're okay with is a company buyback, not a promoter buyback, right? Because the moment it comes to promoter buyback, you are personally liable So you don't want to be there.
Is there a standard term sheet available at your platform that the
Yes.
founders can refer to?
So we actually have open sourced all our documents, the term sheet, the employment agreement, IP assignment agreement, the whole works. Letsunter.com/downloads. You can actually download all the documents from there.
Thank you.
We don't come in because it is between the investor and the founder. But because we have set up the standard documents, you know what are the rights which a balanced agreement will have, so you know what to negotiate on. Two, we also can provide you valuation ranges because we are seeing so many deals happening in the market. We'll give you a range of what is happening in the market, so you also know a ballpark figure where you are comfortable with based on your traction. Then I think we'll wrap up. Thank you so much, and hope it was an informative session. I think the Startup Mission will send across the deck to all of you who are registered on this thing. Thank you so much.